Hey everyone! Today we're diving into another terrifying case. Please support my channel by hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notifications. Have you ever wondered how many people go missing around the world in a single day? How about in a whole year? We dug up these chilling statistics and just imagine, every day, 607 people vanish without a trace. In 1 year, that adds up to 221,644 missing individuals. Over the past 20 years, the number reaches a staggering 4,432,880 people. That's more than the entire population of New Zealand, or nearly the entire population of Ireland. Think about that for a moment. Almost 4.5 million people from each generation simply disappear. But how is it that, in this age of digital information, people can still vanish? Here's the answer. Some deliberately choose not to be found, while others are kidnapped to fuel the black market for organ trafficking, sex slavery, or for illegal medical experiments. And then there are those twisted individuals who take people simply to fulfill their own vile goals. But sometimes the missing are found, and they become another tragic headline. On October 24, 2019, 19-year-old Anaya Blanchard was reported missing by the Auburn, Alabama Police Department. Her parents and relatives launched a massive search campaign, and within days, local authorities joined the effort. Could it be that this young college student's disappearance was just a dramatic teenage stunt? That maybe she'd simply partied too hard or gotten upset with her parents like so many teens do? That kind of behavior might be possible for any other teenager, but not for Anaya Blanchard. Anaya Haley Blanchard was born on June 22, 2000, to Elijah Blanchard and Angela Haley Harris. The family lived in Homewood, Alabama. Her father was a businessman, and her mother was a registered nurse. When Anaya was about 3 years old, her parents split up but maintained a friendly relationship. In 2003, her mother, Angela, met heavyweight MMA fighter Walt Harris, and soon, the two got married. Despite her parents' divorce when she was still a little girl, Anaya had a great relationship with both of them. Over the years, she became a part of two different families, finding love and support from her stepmother, Yashiba Blanchard, and her stepdad, UFC fighter Walt Harris. These two couples and her older brother, Elijah Blanchard Jr., who was just 17 months her senior, meant the world to her. From a young age, Anaya had a strong maternal instinct, something she picked up from watching her mother work. Anaya's kindness made those around her feel loved and at peace, and she was always ready to listen and lend a helping hand when someone was in need. At 19, Anaya Haley Blanchard was the glue that held her family together, bringing them happiness and strength. Anaya graduated from Homewood High School, where she had a real passion for playing softball. In 2019, she enrolled at Southern Union State Community College, SUSCC, to study early childhood education. Her dream was to eventually transfer to Auburn University and become an elementary school teacher. On October 23, 2019, Anaya and her brother went to visit their mom and stepdad. After dinner, they said their goodbyes and headed back toward the college dorms. Around 11 p.m., Anaya dropped her brother off at his place and continued on her way alone. They lived just 10 minutes apart. She let him know that her phone battery was running low, but assured him there was no need to worry since she didn't have far to drive. Later that night, around midnight, Anaya called a friend. But after that, Anaya never made it back to her dorm. The next day, her family reported 19-year-old Anaya Blanchard as missing to the police. One of the biggest red flags that something was seriously wrong was that Anaya had left her dog Blue alone overnight. Her mom knew Anaya would never do that. That dog was like a child to her. Anaya's phone activity ended at 11:47 p.m., suggesting that her phone either died or was turned off around that time. It last pinged near the Clarion Inn area on South College Street. A massive search effort began. Her parents appeared on TV shows, volunteers posted missing person flyers, and search groups combed the areas around where she was last seen, and all that effort paid off. On October 25th, about 50 miles from where Anaya disappeared, her 2017 Honda CR-V was found in a Montgomery apartment complex. When police inspected the car, they discovered that the interior was covered in blood, and there were serious dents and damages to the exterior, consistent with a collision. According to law enforcement, the damage occurred sometime between Wednesday and Friday night. Days went by, but there was still no sign of Anaya. Her parents were devastated. They continued making appearances on television, desperately trying to keep Anaya's story in the public eye, hoping it would lead to more clues about her whereabouts. A week after she was reported missing, 19-year-old Anaya Blanchard was still officially classified as a missing person. She was last seen wearing a black dress and brown boots while driving her black Honda CR-V. In an effort to get more people involved and help bring Anaya home, a $105,000 reward was offered for any information leading to her whereabouts. But despite the reward, the search for Anaya didn't pick up speed. There were almost no solid leads, or if there were, they weren't being followed up on properly. Let's try to piece together the sequence of events and pay attention to any details that law enforcement might have missed. On Wednesday, October 23rd, just before midnight, Anaya Blanchard was on the phone with a friend. This was the last time anyone who knew her heard her voice. By Thursday, October 24th, a missing person report had been filed with the Auburn Police Department. "We need as many people as possible searching for Anaya right now. This is not like her. She would have come home," said Angela Haley Harris, Anaya's mother. Late Thursday night, her stepfather, UFC heavyweight fighter Walt Harris, posted a video on social media pleading with the public to help find his stepdaughter. But as the days went by, hope began to fade, and her family and friends were left clinging to the hope that she would return. On October 25th, after Anaya's car was found with blood inside, her parents were overcome with despair. On Sunday, October 27th, a vigil was held for the missing teenager who, according to her mother, had been with a man on the night she disappeared. The young man she had just met, that's all. She didn't say where she met him, how she met him, or where they went. She just said she was with this guy she'd just met, but my daughter wouldn't just go off with a complete stranger, Haley Harris explained. On Monday, October 28th, the police released surveillance footage showing Anaya entering a convenience store around 11:21 p.m. to buy some potato chips. By October 30th, a task force had been assembled, made up of more than 60 agencies, including the FB1, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences. The disappearance of Anaya Blanchard triggered a massive search operation. The multi-agency task force, which included the FB1, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences, was actively involved in the search. The case quickly gained national media attention. The only real lead the police had was Anaya's damaged car, which was abandoned near an apartment complex in Montgomery. The car showed signs of a collision, and blood was found on the front passenger seat. The Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences confirmed that the blood belonged to Anaya Blanchard, indicating she might have suffered a life-threatening injury. Investigators also discovered a bullet hole in the passenger door and shell casings in the left cup holder. Police noted a strong smell of cleaning solution in the car. Despite this, there were still no suspects or solid leads pointing investigators in the right direction. As time passed, detectives had no choice but to dig deeper into the existing evidence. When detectives took a closer look at the surveillance footage from the convenience store where Anaya was last seen, they noticed a black man lingering near her. On November 6th, the Auburn Police Department released an image from surveillance footage showing a man who could be of interest in the investigation. Detectives identified the man and were waiting to speak with him. The individual was described as a black man between 20 and 30 years old, weighing around 200 pounds, and standing between 5 feet 8 inches and 5 feet 10 inches. He was last seen wearing dark pants, dark shoes, and a camo hoodie with the word Vans printed in white on the back. Police reported that the suspect left the area in a silver or gray Lincoln Town car from the early 2000s. The next day, the man was identified as 29-year-old Ibrahim Yazid from Montgomery. Surveillance footage confirmed that he had been in the store at the same time as Anaya. The video shows him buying alcohol while persistently looking over at Anaya. He was later caught on camera exiting Anaya Blanchard's car from the passenger side. Footage from another gas station showed him getting back into her car on the passenger side again. Afterward, Anaya and Ibrahim drove away together. But if the bullet hole was in the passenger seat, why was the blood Anaya's? Eyewitness accounts confirmed that on that night, Anaya Blanchard and Ibrahim Yazid were seen talking near her car by the store. One witness claimed she saw Ibrahim force Anaya into the car before driving off in her vehicle. According to detectives, this witness shared what she saw with a friend, but neither of them intervened to help the stranger. By all accounts, Ibrahim forcibly put Anaya in the passenger seat. At the time of Anaya Blanchard's disappearance, Ibrahim Yazid already had a long criminal record and was out on a $295,000 bond, facing charges of marijuana possession, robbery, and attempted murder. By age 30, Ibrahim had accumulated almost every crime in the book, including violent offenses, except for an actual homicide. The suspect was also accused of attempting to kill 2 police officers in 2012 when he rammed into their car and was arrested in 2017 for aggravated assault on a police officer. He had a history of assaulting officers with weapons, dealing synthetic drugs, and participating in robberies. In one escape attempt, he even crashed into a police car. Yet, shockingly, the court kept releasing this repeat offender on bail, or giving him minimal punishment. In June 2020, Ibrahim Yazid was charged with the 2018 murder of Stephen Hamby. He was also charged with the attempted murder of a woman who was shot in the face during the same incident that killed Stephen Hamby. Somehow, despite all of this, he was still walking free. Auburn Police Chief Paul Register stated, "Further investigation and analysis of the evidence determined that Yazid was at the same location where Anaya Blanchard was last seen, and he was involved in abducting Anaya against her will. There's no reason to believe that Ibrahim knew Anaya. She may have just been a random target of a carjacking." Officials didn't rule out more arrests and continued searching for any accomplices of the suspect. An arrest warrant was issued for 30-year-old Ibrahim Yazid, who was wanted on first-degree kidnapping charges and had a history of arrests for violent crimes. Authorities actively searching for Yazid warned that the man from Montgomery might be armed and dangerous. On November 7th, police issued an arrest warrant for Ibrahim Yazid on first-degree kidnapping charges. After the warrant was issued, authorities spent about 12 hours looking for him. This happened 2 days after the surveillance footage of the man believed to be Yazid was released. A tip led police to Pensacola, where the Florida Regional Fugitive Task Force tracked him down near an interstate exit. At around 2:30 a.m., Yazid was taken into custody at the Escambia County Jail in Florida on kidnapping charges, and later agreed to be extradited back to Alabama. He was denied bail since he was considered a fugitive wanted in another state. Anaya Blanchard's family feared that her warm, bubbly nature might have put her in a dangerous situation, and her willingness to help others led her right into the hands of criminals. "She's just someone who lifts everyone's spirits and brings happiness. She's so full of life. It pains me to say this, but maybe that's what got her into this situation. She was so trusting, and I think someone might have taken advantage of that," her mother said in yet another interview. The family also dismissed rumors that Anaya had plans to meet up with some guy the night she disappeared, stating they went through her social media accounts and confirmed that Anaya hadn't been talking to anyone other than her family and her roommate. One of the last messages Anaya sent was a Snapchat to her roommate saying she was with a guy she had just met. But Haley Harris didn't believe Anaya wrote that message because the wording and style didn't sound like her daughter at all. She chose not to share further details about that message. As investigators suspected, Ibrahim had accomplices who helped cover up the carjacking and were with him the night Anaya went missing. The investigation hit another dead end until police arrested a second suspect, Antoine "Squirmy" Fisher, on November 22nd. Later, a prosecutor revealed that Fisher had helped Yazid switch to another car and provided him with money when he fled to Florida. Before detectives could fully question Fisher, the kidnapping case had turned into a crime. On November 23rd, police arrested a third suspect, David Johnson Jr., and charged him with hindering prosecution. Charges against Fisher and Johnson were eventually dropped. Lee County District Attorney Brandon Hughes declined to say how Johnson was obstructing the prosecution. A gag order on the case prevents attorneys, prosecutors, and witnesses from talking to the media about the details. According to Fisher, Ibrahim Yazid arrived at David Johnson Sr.'s house on October 24, 2019, sometime between 5 and 6 a.m. Fisher claimed he saw Anaya Blanchard's car parked near some bushes at that time. Yazid allegedly told Fisher he needed more gas for the stolen vehicle. Fisher drove Yazid to a gas station where they filled up a can with gasoline before returning to Johnson's house. Yazid reportedly told Fisher he needed to grab something, so Fisher drove him north on Interstate 85 toward Shorter. Fisher said they stopped in Montgomery, where Yazid picked up what he needed, an assault rifle. Afterward, they drove to a cemetery off I-85. There, Fisher claimed he saw Yazid dragging something that looked like two legs wrapped in a blanket. Yazid supposedly spent some time in the woods before coming back to the car. By the end of November, hope of finding Anaya alive had all but disappeared. On November 25th, police came across discarded human remains. They were discovered in Macon County, in a wooded area off County Road. Investigators found a skull with what appeared to be a bullet hole in the top. Alongside the remains, they found clothing that matched what Anaya Blanchard was last seen wearing, as well as a lead projectile. On November 27th, the remains were officially identified as those of Anaya Blanchard. An autopsy revealed that she had been killed by a gunshot wound to the head. As a result, the charges against Yazid were upgraded from first-degree kidnapping to capital murder. He was charged with 2 counts of capital murder, one for committing the crime inside a vehicle with a deadly weapon while the victim was in the vehicle, and another for committing murder during a first-degree kidnapping. The preliminary hearing was delayed multiple times due to the COVID-19 outbreak, but the public and Anaya's family patiently awaited the harshest penalty for the man who took their beloved daughter from them. Yazid, accused of kidnapping 19-year-old Anaya Blanchard, appeared in court for a preliminary hearing on November 20th. Yazid's attorney, Elijah Beaver, filed a motion requesting a hearing, simply stating that his client was entitled to a preliminary hearing on the kidnapping charges since, according to him, Yazid didn't kill her, but only resisted when Anaya pulled out a weapon. The next hearing took place in June, where Auburn Police Detective Josh Mixon testified about the case. Defense attorneys challenged the prosecution's claim that the crime was committed in Lee County. After reviewing the evidence, Judge Russell Bush found probable cause to present the case to the Lee County grand jury. According to court records, Anaya Blanchard fought back against the criminals who tried to steal her car. She knew how to handle a firearm and could defend herself, but the experienced criminal was quicker than the young woman. It's worth noting that on March 6, 2023, Ibrahim Yazid still hadn't entered a guilty plea to any of the charges against him, so he remains in custody without bail as he awaits trial, which has been postponed multiple times due to the COVID-19 pandemic and other legal reasons. However, without bail or a direct dismissal of the case, 34-year-old Ibrahim Yazid will stay in the Lee County Sheriff's Office jail until his final conviction or acquittal. Anaya Blanchard's disappearance and death drew nationwide attention and media coverage. Her death led to the creation of Anaya's Law, which reformed Alabama's bail laws as her accused killer, Ibrahim Yazid, was out on bail when Anaya was killed. The Alabama state constitution guarantees the right to bail for all defendants, except those charged with capital offenses. Yazid had been released on bail after being charged with kidnapping and attempted murder, which are not capital offenses. Anaya's law expands the exceptions to include other serious crimes like arson, burglary, domestic violence, aggravated child abuse, assault, robbery, kidnapping, human trafficking, rape, sexual torture, terrorism, and homicide. Prosecutors will be allowed to request a bail hearing, which the judge can either grant or deny. If the hearing is held, the defendant will be allowed to testify, present witnesses, and cross-examine witnesses. Prosecutors will need to demonstrate that the defendant is a flight risk or a danger to public safety. The judge can then either approve or deny bail. As of November 8, 2022, Anaya's law, House Bill 81, was passed by Alabama voters. A scholarship in memory of Anaya Blanchard was established by the Homewood City Schools. In June 2020, a bench in Patriot Park in Homewood was dedicated to her. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. There are a lot of shocking stories coming up.